Hello from University of Phoenix Stadium. Rich Gray alongside Bob Kemp. A Cardinals dominating victory, 38-8 over the Green Bay Packers. Move to 13-2, clinch a first-round bye, have an outside chance of winning the number 1 seed in the NFC. But before we get to all of that, we'll go through the 3 phases of the game. Offensively for the Cardinals, plenty of good. There was a couple of bad things, but obviously with a 38-8 score, it was a pretty dominating win.
Absolutely. Big plays there once again. I think that Michael Floyd, I think a lot of people forget that at the end of the 2013 season, we thought that he was going to be this. He was terrific in the last 4 or 5 games that year. And there's lots of good receivers in this league, but I dare that anybody's playing better in the last month or so than he is. So it's just not the catch, which there was a lot of talk in the last week about the 50-50 ball, which he didn't always get, especially last year. And not only is he getting that, the yards after the catch has become like an added bonus at this point. Also, stud number 2 would be David Johnson, of course, more of a quality than quantity type of thing today. But, those 2 guys have become huge weapons here all of a sudden, and, on a consistent basis, too. It's not just a game here or there. And, I know that the game, the passing game and the scheme is whoever's open gets the ball, but I think maybe they're leaning towards Floyd a little more in this at least in this case down the stretch.
And some of the issues that have popped up during this season inside the red zone, third down, that wasn't a problem today.
No, Johnson did. I'm not. Did he drop that ball? Did it go like? Well, he also didn't run the right route because if he'd been tackled, it wouldn't even have been a touchdown. It was 3rd and 1 from the 1, and so there's a few things obviously. And I don't. Since they got away with winning, and obviously I'm sure that maybe they don't mind that so much. There's some teaching tools and so forth at that point, but. That was an interesting play. I didn't see a replay on that, but the offense certainly did some good things. Obviously, lots of good things. I think the one play that's kind of the forgotten play of the game is that Bobby Massey saved a touchdown, as it turns out. The interception at the end of the first half on the screen pass, he doesn't make that tackle. It's a touchdown for Green Bay, and obviously Bethel ends up getting the interception, so that's kind of forgotten because the Cardinals come back and score at the end of the half. But that was a huge play at the time, where it's 10-7 right off that play. So as far as the one thing that's I think the guards and the center, especially Larson, had a rough day with penalties. He got thrown back into the backfield a couple of times. And not that I'm assuming Jonathan Cooper's going to spring up and be the starter at any point, but clearly there were some problems in the interior of the defense. Granted, that's probably, if you include Clay Matthews in that group of who you have to block, because they move him around a lot. But they had that was the one thing they had a real tough time with on offense.
Carson Palmer did say after the game that anytime a player in the 70s get an interception, that's his fault. So that's accurate. But he also thanked his defense for bailing him out. And speaking of the defense, 9 sacks, 2 defensive touchdowns. You mentioned the Bethel interception that led to another touchdown, an all-out dominating performance defensively.
It was, and I think if you watch the Packers, there's one thing, I say this a lot, for people who don't get to come to the games, it's impossible to simulate really an NFL game as well as you can see things on television. We've heard for 10 weeks or 14 weeks or whatever it is that the Packers receivers are having a tough time getting open. They can't get open unless it's Randall Cobb, and they didn't. I thought he was open more than once today, and they didn't go to him for some reason. But the 9 sacks, not all that was just overpowering the offensive line, which of course had the starting left tackle out and both starting tackles out by the end of the game. But there were some coverage sacks in there and so forth. And really the first half I thought was the best half that Calais has ever played. He drew two holding penalties, had 2 sacks. The first 3 drives that Green Bay had, he basically made a play to stop all of them in some shape or form, either being held or getting a sack. And then obviously everybody else kind of picked it up from there, including Dwight Freeney, who, for the guy that called was that 2 weeks ago? What did they get him for? Well, I think that's been answered.
And he's $300,000 richer, too, with those 3 sacks. Special teams is also a good...
Go back to the defense just for a couple more things. Couple things in addition. I think that certainly Powers was really good in the slot. They blitzed him. We were wondering last week who's going to blitz with Matthew out, and he seems to be the designated blitzer. Swearinger was out there a lot again today with Rashad Johnson inactive again, and Johnson was coaching him up like crazy on the bench and during timeouts, and they had to tell him to get off the field once because he was out to about the hash mark, so he was coaching up the whole time. We're seeing a lot more of Sean Weatherspoon, by the way, down the stretch here, especially in the passing downs, and Kevin Minter not in the game. That started about a month ago, and that's seemingly increased now. I'll check the snap count the next couple of days here, but so for people, I'm raising my hand here, that thought that the Weatherspoon thing was just kind of a waste of time, he's actually contributing, and he's calling the defensive signals when he's on the field too with Minter out. And the one negative is that they clearly went after Justin Bethel. And he obviously had the play in the end zone for the interception, but other than that, he had a rough day, and teams are going to target him because obviously Peterson's on the other side, and Powers, it seems, is a better guy in the slot anyway, so that's something they're going to have to sharpen up at some point here before the end of this season.
On to
2.8 yards per play for Green Bay and 2 yards per pass play for Green Bay, which is, that's like, that's Ryan Lindley numbers instead of Aaron Rodgers.
Special teams also solid for the Cardinals today.
They were really good. They had all the kickoffs except for 2 were touchbacks by Catanzaro. I've been on them about that. And one of them was a squib at the end of the half when they didn't try to get a touchback. That was terrific. Butler averaged 43.5 yards per net for punts. They had a few plays inside the 10, obviously. Brick Golden had the great play. Bethel had a terrific tackle, as we're kind of come to expect. So their special teams, which they've been losing in special teams battle. And I was talking to Glenn Parker, our friend from Tucson, about that. And obviously does work for the Cardinals also. And they've been losing about 100 yards a game just on field position. And one of the reasons they're getting 480 yards per game is that their special teams are putting them in such terrible field position. So you're actually better off if they have less yards in a long run because of that. But that was far better today. And I don't care about the fake punt. People say, oh, that's actually better that happened now than it happened in 2 or 3 weeks when somebody saw that hole in the defense during the offseason. I talked to Kent Summers about that too, and that was just a desperate coach doing what he had to do at that time. But better that they clean that up now than during the playoffs when it could really hurt.
That's very true. Well, the Cardinals will have the Seahawks here at home next week, again with a chance. The number 1 seed could be on the line with Carolina losing today, falling to 14-1. So not sure if that game is going to be moved. There's talk of that the NFL might flex the Panthers game in the afternoon, so they're both on at the same time. And so that way the Cardinals won't know, and so we'll see how that plays out, I guess, next week.
I guess we will. I had not heard that talk. 18 different Cardinals players have now scored a touchdown this year, which I assume is first in the league. I don't know that.
Probably. Sure. Cardinals also have their most touchdowns ever in a season in franchise history so far this year. I think it's up to 55 now, maybe a little bit higher than that. Carson Palmer sets his career high in touchdown passes. So everything's clicking right now in December for the Cardinals.
That's true. And we got a huge week of football here, obviously the next 2 weeks with the national championship game right here and the playoffs and the Fiesta Bowl, ASU and the Cactus Bowl. And we'll have it all covered this week. Also, if you want to join me and watch the New Year's Eve college football playoff games, I'll be at the hangar. We'll obviously be broadcasting there Thursday. And conveniently, the first game starts at 2 o'clock with Clemson and Oklahoma. And I'll be there for both games. Come join us. And we'll have U of A and ASU basketball tickets and also ASU women's tickets this weekend against Cal and Stanford. And even I know that they're good women's programs. Those are big-time games. So we'll have tickets for those games at the hangar on Thursday. So watch, listen all week and come see us on Thursday.
So again, for more Cardinals coverage, tune into NBCSports1060.com and the Sports Zone tomorrow and the Blitz, NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. For Bob Kemp, I'm Rich Gray, NBCSports1060.com. Yeah, Notre Dame versus Ohio State here.
Yeah. Bertrand wants to make a bet.
B-Train wants to make a bet.
Well, I suggested, and then I told him, problem here is that Notre Dame's going to win. Yeah. That's the problem.
Oh, they are. Maybe I should make a bet, too.
Yeah, the Buckeyes, I think their sense of urgency has never been there this year, except for luckily one day in Ann Arbor.
Well, Notre Dame's never beaten Ohio State, so it'd be good to...
They have beaten them, but not since
in my lifetime.
1934 and 35 and 36.
Oh, so our lifetimes. It's been that long.
But my dad was so upset about that. They didn't play from 1936 to 1995, and he was not happy about that for a long time. Thank God they won 3 times before he passed. So they're 3-0 in my lifetime against, and I was at 2 of those games.
Only 1-0.
I'll get this one too.
All right. So for the Buckeye, Bob Kemp, and the Irish fan, Rich Gray, NBC Sports Radio AM 1060.